The idea that an 18-year-old kid can walk into a gun store and buy 2 assault weapons is just wrong.
President Joe Biden addressing Americans and calling for gun control after the deadliest school shooting in the US in 10 years. Singapore is expected to see slower growth this year, with risks from global events likely to continue. And sold out by 9 a.m., fresh chicken flies off the shelves before Malaysia's export ban kicks in. Good evening, you're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss a single episode. We begin with the elementary school shooting in South Texas, where 19 young children and 2 adults have died. The 18-year-old gunman, Salvador Ramos, opened fire at Robb Elementary School before he was killed by law enforcement. Investigators say he was armed with a handgun, an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle and high-capacity magazines. He's also suspected of shooting his grandmother at the start of the rampage. Tomorrow was meant to be the last day of the school year for the 500 students who are aged 5 to 11 and mostly Hispanic. In a speech from the White House, President Joe Biden says Americans must stand up to the gun lobby and pressure members of Congress to pass sensible gun laws.
As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done? What struck me was these kinds of mass shootings rarely happen anywhere else in the world. Why? They have mental health problems. They have domestic disputes in other countries. They have people who are lost. But these kinds of mass shootings never happen with the kind of frequency they happen in America. Why? Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Why do we keep letting this happen? Where in God's name is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it and stand up to the lobbies? It's time to turn this pain into action for every parent, for every citizen in this country. We have to make it clear to every elected official in this country, it's time to act.
Joining me is mobile editor Jeremy Au Yong, who was our US bureau chief from 2013 to 2016. Jeremy, Mr. Biden urging Americans to stand up to the gun lobby, but gun control is one of the most divisive issues. Why?
Well, Haryanto, I think at the heart of the problem is how this gun control issue has now become embedded into the broader culture war that is taking place in the US. But just to be clear, there are many elements of gun control where the polling shows is not that polarizing. I think up to 80% of Americans agree that expanded background checks should be in place. Also, a majority agree that banning people who are, say, for instance, mentally ill or who are on terror watch list from buying guns is something that can be done. But none of this, even though there is broad public agreement, seems to be able to move and become policy because of the politics of it all. I mean, I don't really want to get into the weeds here of the policy making in the US. In short, I would say one big part of the problem is what I would call an intensity gap. Basically, the people who are against gun control care about it a lot and care about it all the time. The people who are in favor of some gun control, they care about a lot of other things on top of gun control. That means the people who are against the limitations, who are against all gun control, they vote on this issue. This tends to be the one issue they vote on, and they see any move, even a slight move towards gun control as a slippery slope that will eventually lead to the government taking away all their guns. So they feel this quite intensely. And this particular view was also boosted by the National Rifle Association for decades. The NRA was for the long time one of the US most powerful lobbying groups. They are a diminished organization these days, but the political division that they sowed, that they advocated for, appears to be quite long-lasting. So to say that again, the people who are against gun control, who want freedom to own as many guns as possible, who want background checks, these people are always lobbying their congressmen, and they are donating money and they are voting on it. So the 80% of people might be in favor of gun control, but the 20% against it are much more vocal. So you hear their voices more and they exercise their political power more. The other side it tends to be only in the wake of mass shootings, like the situation we have today. So one can fully expect there to be a strong call for gun control in the days and weeks to come. And you hear President Biden, calling for actually the majority of Americans to stand up to the gun lobby. But if previous incidents are anything to go by, this pro-gun lobby will just bide its time. At the moment, the intensity among the pro-gun control people is high, but it will fade over time. And if they can bide their time until attention moves on, nothing will happen. And I mean, if we look at what happened after the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012, again, that was a shooting that also where preschoolers were the victims. I think it was 6-7-year-olds, very young kids. Even after that tragedy, which really shocked the US and shocked the world, no actual gun laws were tightened after that. If anything, actually gun laws, if we look back now, what happened after Sandy Hook, gun laws in the US actually became looser, not tighter.
So, Jeremy, on that note, help us understand the gun culture in the US. Why are there so many guns in the country?
Well, Haryanto, you are right to say that the US actually does have a lot of guns. There's no official count, there's no official data on this, but most estimates indicate that the US has the largest number of guns per head of population in the world. Some estimates say that the US actually has more guns than people. Guns, I mean, are a big part of US popular culture. They have a revered place in a lot of movies, even dating back to like the old Western cowboy movies. And guns are part of that wild, wild West culture. But more than that, today the people on both sides, they live very different lives and have very different lived experiences when it comes to guns. It's kind of a rural-urban divide here. If you live in the rural US, say you're on a farm, you hunt, and the nearest police will take an hour to get to you. Your view of guns is going to be quite different from somebody living in the city. You own a gun, all your friends own guns, nobody you know has done any mass shootings, you also haven't shot anybody, your children grew up around guns, and your family might even have treated a precious gun as some sort of family heirloom. So if you are one of these people are going to see a mass shooting, something like what happened today, and reason that these mass shootings don't actually have something to do with guns. It's not the guns that are bad. They'll find some other reason. Maybe it's mental health, maybe it's violent computer games, etc., etc. Those living in cities where there is more gun crime will have a very different experience of guns. They are going to see this broad availability of guns as the core part of that issue. And I'm not sure there's any real way to reconcile those two sides. So it's sad to think about it, but US has gone through this cycle so many times. It's just going to be a case where nobody is even talking about ending mass shootings. It's just about what happens when the next mass shooting is going to come.
Jeremy, thank you for the perspectives. Jeremy Au Yong there, the Straits Times' former US bureau chief and current mobile editor. Now, he's written about the gun control issue before, which you can read in the opinion pages in tomorrow's paper. On the local front, 4,500 BTO units will be launched this Friday in Toa Payoh, Jurong West and Yishun, as well as in Bukit Merah and Queenstown, which will be under the prime location housing model. HDB is on track to launch up to 23,000 BTO flats this year. Speaking at the North Shore Edge project in Punggol, National Development Minister Desmond Lee says the number of BTO projects delayed by 6 months or longer has dropped to 58 this year, from 74 in 2021. Sold out by 9 in the morning, that's right. One poultry seller at MacPherson Market telling the Straits Times business has been brisk since Malaysia announced on Monday that it would stop exporting chickens from June 1st. Many customers called in to place their orders this morning, and by 9 a.m. everything was gone. Normally, chicken would sell out only at about noon. Now, over at Chinatown Complex, another poultry seller said business has been much busier, with shoppers buying more chicken than usual. And he'll be monitoring the situation closely in the next few days, given the uncertainty over how long Malaysia's export ban will last. Singapore's final GDP figures for the first quarter. The economy grew 3.7% year-on-year, down from 6.1% in the previous 3 months. And for the year, growth will now likely come in at the lower half of the Trade and Industry Ministry's 3 to 5% forecast. Two external factors, the Russia-Ukraine conflict and COVID-19 lockdowns in China, proving to be a drag on growth. The number of visitors to Singapore from January to April this year has exceeded figures for the whole of 2021, mainly due to a surge in arrivals last month after most of the COVID-19 restrictions were eased. The Singapore Tourism Board says last month's figures is also the highest since February 2020, although it remains a fraction of the 1.6 million visitors logged pre-pandemic. Scams are so rampant today that they have become a social scourge. Every other day, we report on stories of the public being warned of existing scams or of a new scam variant. Between 2016 and mid-2021, people in Singapore have lost almost $1 billion to various scams. In an ST Stop Scams webinar held earlier today, the panelists discussed, among other things, how scams affect victims beyond the monetary loss.
It's not just about losing money. It's also about losing face, right? Especially in our Asian society. You lose money, it's very hard to tell your family, you know. And sometimes people don't talk to others, you know, to get some help. So it's about losing dignity, you know, losing that sense of safety, psychological safety. So beyond just the financial impact, right, there's so many other kinds of impact. We've seen suicides, right? We've seen people driven to the edge, anxiety, depression, you know, some kind of traumatic impact. Their life changes. It must change if you're losing your entire life savings, right? Can you imagine? You look forward to a nice retirement, you look forward to money put aside for your children, for things, and you lose it all, and you feel so silly and so upset, and you're so hard on yourself.
Scammers not only take away people's money, they also take away people's lives as well as their families. So this is one sad story that we know, but there are many others that we don't know. Even for the case of job scam, one teenager actually lost $8,000 over and committed suicide. So like what Dr. Majid has mentioned, so sometimes emotionally they are really very affected. It's really not just money, it could be the face, the embarrassment, the shamefulness that they are going through. And that is why we always advocate that if you have a problem, speak to your family members, your friends, your loved one. If the scammer tells you that you shouldn't, this is top secret, you are helping me on a mission, I'm from China official, please do not believe them. Or they'll tell you that this is between me and you know, the love is between me and you shouldn't involve third party. Don't believe all them. Sometimes it's good to share and talk about your problem and seek help from all around you.
You can watch the full clip out later at 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel. Now at the same time, remember to subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.